And greetings friends, Technicals Tinkers here, checking in on our little 3D print operation for today. If you're new to the channel or uninitiated or unfamiliar, I 3D print stuff to enrich my life, fix stuff around the house, and sell on the internet for a little side income, a little side cheddar. If you're interested in any of those things, be sure to subscribe to the channel. So what have I got going on today? Well, it's been a few days. If you want to check in on the previous vlog episode and kind of catch up a little bit, I'd surely appreciate the watch hours. Right now, things are going a little bit ham, at least relative to how busy I normally am. Been selling a ton of stuff over the past few days. Hornet nests, a lot of crypto stuff, and yeah, that's mainly it. A lot of crypto stuff. I operate a crypto channel as well, and I kind of advertise there that I sell these shrouds. I sell them on eBay and Etsy. A new miner came out that, you know, this fits, and so I've been selling quite a few of these. Some motherboard standoffs here. These are just a very simple little cone design that fits and holds your motherboard up off the tray. 4 SSD trays, which I'm shocked that I didn't take this product down. I'll put a picture of it right here. It's just for your little 2.5-inch SSD, internal SSDs. I don't know who needs to hold an array of, I guess 40 of them at a time, but they wanted 4, and so I'm printing those now. Hopefully get all those shipped out today. Another few orders, one going out yesterday of more crypto stuff, more hornet nests. So that's very cool. But the thing that I've been working on and I really want to get done because it's taking way longer than I thought it would is the ultimate desk hub. Why am I pointing to the Giga? Weren't you printing that on your bamboos? Well, we got to go back in time. Let's go back in time and see the saga on that a little bit. All right, so the ultimate desk hub. These I've been printing, I stopped printing it like this and I started printing it like this. I added a triangle on the inside. It's a heavy overhang on here so I could eliminate supports printing on the inside and not have as much infill because I want thick infill, but I don't need that much infill. And so printing it flat like this and the lifting is insane. Now, I understand why I've kind of got some issue here on this little tiny segment. Lifting a little bit here and you could see this line that kind of carries around the whole perimeter. That's where this flat part is, where it's doing the flat section on the inner of the model. And I think that's just lag time from cooling. So it's printing this relatively quickly, and then suddenly when it's got to print all those top surface layers, it's cooled significantly more. And so my thinking is one of two things, again, with that heavy brim around the edge, or I just cut the bottom out completely. And I'm thinking that might be the solution because that will carry a more consistent layer time all the way through. I know I can change that around in the settings, but I'd have to look into that first. I haven't really done that before. I remember doing it with the Moai, but that was more like a speed control. And either way, if you dial the speed up or down, it's still gonna take longer for it to do this top surface before it gets back to the perimeter wall loop. So I'm thinking I could maybe get away with just deleting the bottom out of this thing, and I don't think that's gonna make too much of a difference because ultimately it sits flat. I also thought about combining this, cutting out the bottom and printing the whole thing in one go on the Giga, just for a more like seamless look. And I was thinking like, well, if there's nothing in the bottom, I don't need to have access to it. Now the Giga, it has a 0.6 nozzle on it right now. I'm not sure if it's gonna be able to do a 0.2 layer height on a 0.6 nozzle. It should, I would imagine so. And this ghosting, ugh, it's ripping my heart out because each one of these was, I got it down to like 600 grams per side, but I burned so much filament doing this. And if I design this for the Giga, no one's gonna be able to print it if I make it a digital download. So overall, this is 18 inches wide. No one's gonna be able to print it. So I want to keep pursuing making it in 2 halves so I can offer the digital download. Maybe for my purposes, just personally, I'll combine it and make like a, you know, just my own private desk hub. Private desk hub for money. And then just kind of keep going, working on this after the fact. But, you know, it leaves a lot to be desired. We also need to resin our gate letter today, at least get a coat on there. So we're gonna work on that. I'm gonna give these things a few, well, there's nothing printing right now. We'll give it a few hours for daylight to break. I've got to do my landscaping chores. And then after I'm done with that, then I'll get back into the 3D print thing and continue this day in the life of a 3D print vlog, whatever I'm doing. It's a day in the life. All right, so we're out in the building and we're gonna apply some resin to this piece. It's one of the bowed pieces. This is a test, so I'm gonna put a coat of resin on here and leave it out in the sun and see how bad it melts. Like I had mentioned in the previous vlog, I used to work with this auto body resin back in the day. This is a quart. It's a quart. It's 0.9 quarts. They only give you a full quart. I don't know if it's because it's JB Weld brand and because it's not Bondo brand. I don't know if Lowe's doesn't sell this anymore. It's $31. I could not believe it. Back in the day, this was 10 bucks for a quart. So I'm gonna use it very carefully, at least more carefully than I used to back in the day. And if you're unfamiliar, this is polyester resin, boat resin, car resin, whatever. It's liquid, 2-part. Put a little squirt of this in there, mix it up, paint it on, and it gets hard. This drips really bad, at least in my experience, so I'm gonna be very ginger painting it on. So I've got this, I've got a brush that's obviously been used a little bit, you know, because once you use a brush in this stuff, the brush is done. I'd prefer a sponge brush or something like that, but whatever, it's what I got. Over here I got my piece, I got a couple sticks with screws in them to kind of hold it up, and you know, so when it dries, it doesn't stick to whatever I got laying on it. And for hardener, I don't weigh anything out, I just give it a little squirt. A little dab will do you. I guess I don't use this screwdriver. Have fun prying that off later. I didn't do any surface preparation or anything. I'm just kind of going for it. Temperature is about, let's say 65. Oh, it's going on a lot thicker than I remember. Well, then again, you know, I've only ever used Bondo, and that was a long time ago. Back in the day when I did this, I would do Pepakura, which is essentially, you know, it's like you print it out on cardstock, a design, you score and cut along these lines. Could have done without that. Whatever, let's go for it. And it assembles into whatever you're trying to make. So my thing is I made Master Chief costumes and sold them on eBay. I eventually made a Predator costume that was the ultra shittiest Predator costume you've ever seen. And I sold it on eBay for $300 at the time, which was kind of a lot of money. Used to mix this with the Bondo, you know, the paste, and I would get a nice consistency, and then I would paint that on, but man, that stuff was really difficult to work with, and there was no scenario where you didn't have to sand it, and that's really the part that I hate doing. All right, so we got our 1 coat of resin on there. You know, I don't really expect it to even out too much, but we'll probably come back and do one more tomorrow, I guess, or if we have time today, and if you're, yeah, it's gonna be tomorrow. Next, we need to grab our ball for our Dummy 13 dog up here on the Cobra. Print it out beautifully. Thank you, Cobra 1. Check in on our Ultimate Desk Hub, the other half. You know, it's not absolutely perfect like I'd like it to be, but it looks like there's no lifting this time. So hopefully that goes the distance. It's going the distance, going for speed. All right, so we got our ball here, and we've got the socket joint that finished up. If you're wondering what part of the dog this is, it corresponds to, it said upper leg, so it's this section, this upper leg section here. Why would the printer pause with error? Literally, remember when I said it's going the distance, it's going with speed? Just got a notification, the printer. I'm busy here. Let's go look at it. Will you testify on my behalf that I did not touch that printer and it was moving when we looked at it? All right, what's the problem? We are running out of filaments. If another filament sponsor comes in and gives me 100 kilos a month, I'm not gonna say no. All right, and so we're back. This is the section that I printed. This is at 300%, this whole model. This is 1,000%, and this is what I'm gonna ultimately do the dog with. I'm actually gonna show you, this is my workflow. Let me show you. So I wanted to show the workflow that I'm using for this Dummy 13 dog. I'm scaling it up to 1,000%, and when I built the big Dummy 13, 1,300%, the ball and socket joints, I mentioned this in the previous vlog, when you print it small like this, they snap in fine. You know, in and out, no big deal. And this is like not a lot of wall loops, not a lot of infill. Snaps in and out, not a big deal. When you scale it up though, you start running into problems. It's impossible to get them in there without cracking this, really no matter what you do. Now they have a mod on printables that has a sort of a bigger ball and socket joint. The problem with that is that you don't keep tension on it. And so when you scale it up big, when you snap it in, this holds tension. It's tight, it's squeezing. When you do it big and you make the ball or the socket too large, it's just flimsy. There's no tension on it. So what I plan to do is take this part, the socket, and cut off I wish I was an animator and I could animate things. To cut off right here, print it as 2 separate pieces, have a little hole in there, and then I can place very gently the ball inside, and then take this little piece, put it against it, and then send a screw through it to put it in. So I obviously need to modify the design to do that, and so I'm going to show the workflow that I'm using for it. So I'm here starting out, I'm in a slicer. So I'm going to be printing most of these on the Cobras. For my Cobras, I use any cubic slicer next. I don't keep an Orca profile for those. I just kind of like having different slicers open for the different printers. But I'm over here. This is the upper leg component. This is what we're going to start with, because you have to print 4 of these for the dog. So I've already scaled this up. You can see here, I've scaled it up to 1000% of size. It prints with no support. Well, yeah, it's going to have to print with supports here on this overhang, given the size of it. So there's going to be some supports there, but there are no supports here in the socket part. So I scaled it up to 1000%, and then I export it as 1 STL. That way it's the size it's going to be when I do work on it in Tinkercad, and that's because the screw holes, if I make the screw holes in and then scale it up, then the screw holes get this big, and I don't have screws that big. So that's why I'm starting with the scaling and then moving into design. All right, so I'm working backwards a little bit here because I kind of wanted to prove that this idea would work before I filmed it. So I took the part here, I made a Boolean cube, and then just kind of eyeball angled it to where I wanted the cut to be. And so from there, I go and remove that section. I make a copy of the other side, and then I do the same thing for the smaller section, and that way I have 2 separate components. So simple enough process to begin with, and that way when you have this second component here, then you can create a Boolean of that to create the key. So I'm making what's the word for it? It's like not a dovetail joint, but a key in a hole. So I've got that here. If I break this apart, all I did was add a half semicircle there at an appropriate size, and then combine it, then convert it into a Boolean. And so that way I can make a copy of that and then print it, and then make a copy of that as the key, the Boolean key that I then move into here. It creates the hole for the key. Now there's going to be a tolerance issue probably because I didn't go in there and shave off like a 0.1 millimeters to make sure that it fits, but forcing it in, not too worried about it. I'm going to glue this in place. And so once I have the ball in, I take this part, put some glue on it, put it together, and then send the screw. And so the glue and the screw act in unison. I'm using drywall screws for this because I kind of actually went through some reasoning on using drywall screws. They've got an aggressive thread size. It's pretty wide, and I think that's probably good for plastic. They're not too long, they're long enough, and I have a shitload of them because I don't want to buy a bunch of screws for this. So I'm going to be using these drywall screws. I think they'll be okay. I'm back over here in Slicer next. Additionally, I used the semicircle for the key because that would allow me to avoid needing supports on both the small piece and the large piece. It shouldn't need any supports versus any other type of shape like a dowel or anything like that. Let me know what you would have used. So I've got it in here. This is 1000% of size. All right, and we're good to go. 100 grams, not too bad. Times 4, that'll be half a spool in order to do this segment, but overall not too bad. So hell, let's just load it up and send it to print. So now you know how I designed this thing. I just cut the piece off, added a little key to it, whatever the term for that is, added a hole for the screw. I already printed this and verified it works, but I didn't have any tolerance issues. The key kind of goes in there. It's not super tight. Maybe that's the Cobra's fault. Maybe probably mine, but overall, not bad, I think. Lines up, and I did verify earlier that the screw went into it because I wanted to make sure I had a working example, but I have not tested the ball yet. So upper leg section corresponds to this ball here on his hips. This is the test. This is my grand idea to get around having to pop these in there. So, here we go. What I'm looking for is, can I put it in here and keep tension on it so I can articulate it, but it stays where I put it? That's really what I want, because I don't want to print these in TPU. I'm not doing, that's insane. Here we go. It's gonna work. Oh, it's gonna work. I am the smartest man alive. I'll watch it crack. It's gonna crack into 1,000 pieces. I have so many cockamamie ideas that never work out, and if you've been a fan of the channel for a while, you know that's true. But for something like this to work, man, that's just great. So I'm moving it with a little bit, I think it's gonna be okay. And also, you know, I could kind of give it like a little extra turn. And I haven't heard any cracking since turning this in. Let's go ahead and try. I'm not hearing any cracking, like that's really in there now. Because man, off top, I shot that several days ago and I forgot where I was in the process. And so I'm editing and I'm like, I need to know where I left off with this thing so I can know what I'm talking about. So Ultimate Desk Hub, I was going through and it was just not giving me the results I wanted. The bed lift was out of control. So if I say anything about stuff lifting off the bed, the glue people come in, the clean it with alcohol people come in, the Dawn dish soap people come in, the people who are cold plate maxis, PEI maxis, glass bed maxis. Every solution, I promise you, my solemn promise, Scout's honor, I tried every solution. Cleaning it, spraying, glue, adhesive, hairspray, enclosed, open, eliminate draft, everything. Doesn't matter what I did, I would always get lift on every single part of it. And so my final solution was to build in a brim, essentially, because the model would lift and the brim would stay down. How does that work? And I guess it has to do with drafts. The thing is that here on the P1P, it would still lift as well. And so it was just kind of boggling my mind, and I'm like, you know what? This thing is way too convoluted. Let's combine it and see if we can just print it on the Giga. This has been sitting here for 2 days since it finished printing. And you know, I like to save things and before I pull them off the printer. I can already see it's screwed up, but we're gonna see where it's screwed up and maybe if we're at least on the right track. I tell you, I did want to offer this as people seem interested in it, and at least as a digital file. So I'm printing this one as like for my personal use. No one's gonna be able to print this unless you got I think it's 600 millimeters wide. So if you got a really big, maybe 500. So if you got like a 500 millimeter wide printer, maybe you're gonna be able to do it. But otherwise, I'm gonna keep getting the two-part solution in place so I can offer it as a digital file. But let's pull this off and see where we went wrong, because the top surface looks a little sus. Be at least somewhat careful with these because the little barbs on top can be somewhat fragile. I mean, you really got to give it the beans. I print them with heavy infill because they're so small. And we'll take our shrouds and let's go look at this stuff in some better lighting. And so before we fire into that, we have our combined fused spine section here off the Orange Storm Giga. It's got some brim on it, but we have our ball section here that we did in the test in the first part of the video that actually worked out, which was amazing. So what I'm gonna do now is just kind of do one more test fit before I go through and start printing a bunch of these and modifying the files, because the proof of concept has been proven, but I just wanna make sure that it's proven. Wiggle this out a little bit. So, ball, done, no longer needed. Brimless section here, well, mostly brimless. And then we take our cup, fit it on there, and I think it's gonna orient down. So it's gonna be going over the brim, and that's even better because that's more like stuff jammed up in the works to hold tension. To see how much tension it holds, you know, I'll manipulate it a little bit. And I've gone in and out of this with this screw. This will be the 3rd or 4th time now. This is kind of a good test to see how it will hold up to, you know, adjustment, I guess, sort of, not really. All right, nice and tight in there. This is his upper leg section. Seems pretty sturdy. I mean, well, it'll support the weight of itself on various planes. Yeah, pretty good tension in my opinion. And you could always tighten it down a little more, and worst comes to worst, we can add a second screw hole there. So very promising, very encouraging. I'm gonna take that as a W, and that means we can go ahead and print 3 more of these and the rest of the skeleton structure and start putting it together. What will take the longest is modifying all these parts. But now that I know like the theory behind it, shouldn't be too complex. I mean, I suppose that I could even just kind of cut this part off and this just ball section, turn this into its own, what's the word for it? Like a common component that you retrofit into everything else. There's probably some technical term for that. All right, desk hub. One piece, bottomless. Be decent. So I did this with I manually removed a ton of the supports in here because I wasn't trying to eat up a bunch of filament, and it's on the innard. You'll never see it. I can just clean it up. So Giga coming correct. It's a 0.4 layer height, so it's twice the layer height as the previous models, and I knew it would give me chunkier layer lines, and I can see them, and that's fine with me. I mean, personal preference, I guess. I mean, a lot of people really hate seeing layer lines, and I understand that if you're printing and selling on the internet, you want it to not look 3D printed. It doesn't, I don't think about it either way. So pulling the supports out, looks like it bridged just fine. What made me think it was screwed up was really just the sheen around this this bevel, I guess, this ridge and this top little tray here. It kind of caught the light and it made it look like the top surface layers didn't like apply correctly. But overall, it looks pretty good. The Giga's coming through. Got to move all my incriminating documents and stuff. All my teeth flossers. All right, so let's move this out of the way. Let's take our desk fan thing out of the way. Right there, plenty of room underneath the monitor. Will my phone sit on it? What else do we need? A USB. These fit fine, a little snug. Put my fan in, pop all the other stuff in, and I'll probably address it on the next vlog. I mean, it's perfectly acceptable to me. I just need to clean it up and remove the brim, but overall, I'm gonna count this as a win. But at the same time, I've got to continue to offer in digital files just in case anyone wants to pay $5 for it or whatever, because I'm not going to sell this as a product, because in my experience, when you sell something like the crypto shrouds, I sell these fan shrouds, and I've had 2 people complain in the past that when I sold them, it did not include a fan, even though the language in the listing very clearly states that a fan is not included. It's these for the CMP 210-100 or whatever it is. It's a little shroud that goes on the back of the video card, and you attach your own fan that you buy on top of here, and it pumps the air through, and it says does not include fan, it's just the shroud. But people would be like, there's no fan in this. I'm like, dude, read. So I'm hesitant to offer the ultimate desk hub without selling the actual fan with it, and I'm not trying to stock these fans, you know, because these AC Infinity fans are like 25 bucks, maybe 30. And then, you know, like, what about the USB? It's a lot of parts and stuff, and by the time I add it all up, if this takes a day to print all in, and it's probably, let's say, a kilo worth of filament, shipping, you're probably better than $10 on shipping on that. So all in, my costs on that are about 60 bucks. I'm not looking for like less than probably a $50 rip on that. Just because I have to source all those components and assemble it and then print it and ship it. It's just like a whole suite of things to do. I'm not doing that for less than 50 bucks. And at that point, the potential for chargebacks or complaints or CRMs on that is so high, it's just not worth the time. IMO. Again, if you're doing this as like a side income, side hustle thing, and you got cheap time and you just want to roll the dice on that, I mean, I would say it's certainly worth it. And we're gonna close out the show today here in the building, the Land of Make-Believe. So this has been sitting for a couple days. I applied that resin coat just very gingerly to this piece of the driveway gate, and I'm a bit discouraged, to be honest. I'm not sure this is gonna work out because I was very gentle with it. I could have been more gentle, but going more gentle would have been like, I would need 10 coats on this, and that's just too much. Some drips here on the bottom side of this, and you know, will that translate into the gate? I don't know. I think I'm gonna go one or two ways, because I've got the gate printed. I get the letter printed for the driveway gate. It's already sunk costs on the filament. I've already sunk costs on my $31 pint of quart of resin here. I can't believe how expensive that stuff is. It was $10 back in the day. It's crazy. So my thinking is, and there's some more here, like it dripped through the hole. You kind of see what I'm talking about? Like the resin drips, and it's hard as a rock. And I am not sanding anything. I do not sand. I hate painting. I don't want to do it. I just want to add it on there and go. So my thinking is since the filament costs are already sunk, you can't really tell at a distance. It's going to be black on black. Maybe I'm just going to go for it, put the resin on there. This piece, though, I'm going to put it out in the sun, and it should be a nice warm day today. I want to find the hottest spot that I can, 1 coat of resin. This is kind of a stress test. You know, I'm gonna give it a fighting chance, and I think I wanna suspend it with like a clamp like this. And so that's gonna be the true test, if this thing is gonna be able to hold up, if the resin's gonna add structural rigidity to it. Now when I'm hanging it on the gate, it's gonna be held by these screw holes, so it's not gonna endure that much stress. Maybe that's a better test anyway. Actually just screw this in. I'll screw it in like this and then leave this hanging. I'll screw it into my pergola outside. And then if it shows signs of melting or warping or something like that, then we go back to the drawing board, and then maybe because you know, I'm trying to get a heavy duty laser cutter engraver in, you know, a nice one, and I'm thinking maybe I can just cut this thing out of acrylic. I'm not sure. So I'm gonna attach this to the pergola, and then we'll come back and test the results in a later episode. You know what, man, let's just do it now, because if I don't do it right now, I'm gonna forget. So let's just do it to it. So you're not gonna be able to see anything, but this here's my pergola. I'm just gonna put this on the side and clamp it in place, like Jed clamp it. That is sufficiently clamped in place. I'm not sure if you can see that, but we'll check back in a couple days after it's been beaten by the sun. So that's what I'm working on today. I'd love to know what you're working on in the comments below, what you think about all these things, what you think has the most potential, and what you're most interested in seeing come to fruition. Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like the video because it's a nice thing to do, and subscribe for more content like this. I'm the Technicals. See you next time.